but I guess you don't really need it, so.
No, that's okay. That's okay. You look beautiful, though. Very nice.
Oh, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you. I put makeup on especially for you.
Oh, great. Okay, so I guess you know me already, but I don't know how yours are actually set up. But Tammy, wave. Tammy.
Okay,
Tammy.
yeah, I see names. Okay.
You see all of theirs?
I'm waving back. Yeah, I can see everybody.
Hi.
I'm waving back.
Okay, great.
I don't know why it won't just show my picture. Oh, well.
Okay. So I think we're all going to ask maybe like 2, max 3 questions, and we'll see how things go.
Okay, sounds good.
I guess we should get started. So mine were kind of, since I'm going to start more basic, they were, let me look this up for a second, sorry. Okay, so where did you hear about this, or where did you first decide, like, okay, this is what I want to do?
Okay. What kind of class is this for? Just so I know which angle you're looking for. There's so many.
Just for the whole unschooling. Okay, unschooling. It can be anything if you want to answer, in terms of political or anything, but just schooling versus unschooling.
Okay. So where did I hear about it first? Where did I get the idea first?
Sure.
I think the first inkling I had to do this was before I had kids. I worked for the Educational Testing Services, which is the company that does all the testing, pretty much goes through them. And they were not a very good company, in my opinion. There was I just did not like testing in general, and it just made me start looking in other, what options were there? Like, it got me thinking about it. So that was that.
I was just saying, I'm sure you felt very much pressure at the time.
Actually, no, not at all. I think, no. I mean, beyond the pressures that any parent feels, I wouldn't say that I felt pressure to succeed because, my kids surprised me just, I hate to say it, but I hardly did anything. I don't take any credit for it in a lot of ways other than just being there and being supportive of what they needed, like any parent would. It's just that I was there more. So I guess unschooling is a lot more like what you would see with a parent of a preschooler, except, just sort of being there to meet their needs, except it's different needs. So you meet them in different ways. For example, you drive them to the library so they can get the book they want, So in that sense, I don't know if I felt education, from an educational standpoint, I never felt pressured to do anything in particular, other than what my kids wanted. So, and they've surprised me by wanting a lot more than school would ever ask for. So, yeah.
Well, that's that's an amazing statement. That's awesome.
I don't think that I'm unique in that. I think that that's very typical of homeschoolers, that their kids do quite often much, much more than school ever wants them to do. Yeah. So the number one thing I hear from homeschoolers when their kids go to school is that it's very boring and easy.
My questions were, have you ever felt that your kids wouldn't have the same opportunities as kids who actually ended up going to school?
From an academic standpoint, no.
Okay.
Not at all. I'll tell you what my kids missed out on was, other than a lot of negative things, in my opinion, what they missed out on was, I would say like manners things. When you're around your family, you learn only one way of doing things around the house or around just carrying yourself a certain way. And so when you go out to school, you tend to learn a lot of different ways, so you don't necessarily do things the way your family would do. I think that is sort of remedied by probably a year or so of schooling. So it's not exactly, I don't know. I mean, so for some homeschooling families, they want their kids to only do things the way they do it. So I guess diversity in the sense of not just diversity as far as ethnicity and that goes, but diversity in terms of how people carry themselves and how people do things, you know. So
Okay.
I think being homeschoolers, and that's probably more my family because my kids don't tend to hang around other families at their houses very often. More, so they don't, I mean, they see a lot of kids at a lot of classes, but I guess, what was your question? What else, what have they missed out on?
Yeah, like what opportunities and stuff that they have missed out on?
Honestly, I'm really struggling with that one because I don't think they've missed out on anything other than bullying, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. Negative things.
And other negative things. Negative things is what comes to my mind. Yeah.
So
I don't know. I suppose it's nice. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you planning for your kids to go to college? Like, do you think that might be a problem? It would be like harder for them to get into college and stuff?
I am planning, I mean, if they want to, obviously I'm not going to force them, but if they want to go to college, yeah, I'm planning for them to be prepared to go to college.
Okay.
Yes, I have one. What were some of the major challenges that you face, unschooling your children? Like, can you describe them?
Probably the biggest challenge was trusting that what needed to happen would happen and not forcing it. I tend to go through, and I think this is pretty common, I tend to go through time periods where I worry that they're not getting spelling or whatever that they need, and that somehow they're missing out on something. And every time I do that within a short period of time, it's remedied, like they learn it on their own or something. And so I'm always having to remember that I should just trust that they will get what they need. And I mean, I don't want to give the impression that I don't guide them or I don't ever tell them to do something, or I don't ever, I guess I do very, very often tend to guide them into things. But, it's still, I guess that's probably the biggest challenge, is just to make sure that I don't stress out about it, I guess. And therefore I don't stress them out. I guess that's probably it. And I guess honestly the other challenge is not to do as much, to just let them be, because there's so many opportunities to do things out there and it's very easy to overdo it. The social things, it's actually really, it's harder to stay home and just stay put and give your kids a day where they don't have to do anything but read, So, that's actually the biggest challenge we have right now. Because they're doing what they want to be doing, they don't need prompting. They don't need a whole lot of prompting to go and do it. So I guess it just depends on what they feel like doing. And
do you think it depends on the child?
Yeah, it does. And even the same kid can be different when they start to grow. They start to have different feelings about things, and so they change their mind on how they like to do things. I mean, I'll give you an example. Okay, I told my kids that they need to be musically literate, so they have to know how to read notes, because that's just part of literacy. So they have to have an idea about music. But beyond that, it was their choice. Yeah. So once they took I think I made them take 10 lessons or something like that. I had a deal with them. Like, if you take so many lessons, then you don't have to do any more. And, they continued for a couple of years, and sometimes they took breaks for a couple of months, and then they went back to it. But there were times where I couldn't get my kid off the piano. So it just really depends. And then for a while, he wouldn't practice, and then he'd practice 3 hours a day again and not practice again. So it really... Just like, I mean, if you were to have a hobby, sometimes you would care and sometimes you wouldn't, So
it seems like it puts like a much bigger emphasis on the parent's role.
No, not really. I mean, I guess my role is not to so much teach them anything as to make sure that they have what they need to learn it on their own. And if that means, sometimes I do teach them stuff, but, because they ask me to, but, maybe I need to find them a teacher. Just like, if you're doing piano lessons, you don't teach your kid piano. You find someone else to teach them that.
Yeah.
Unless you happen to be really good at it or something. But, so I guess I don't see my role as being, I see it mostly as being them. And I end up being like the soccer mom chauffeur who just takes them places sometimes. But, I guess just making sure that if they want to learn about something, that I buy them a course on it, or I get them the books that they need, or help them find it. And as they get older, they're doing more of it themselves. I guess I should say that. When they're younger, it is much more labor intensive for the parents.
So you would say the parent acts as more of a guide, right?
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely.
Yes.